Hey everybody, Uri Geller. Now, a lot of you said Uri Geller is debunked spoon-bending magician. Uri Geller isn't just a debunked spoon-bending magician. Uri Geller worked for SRI, Stanford Research, on a CIA program called remote viewing. Mr. Geller might be able to bend spoons, or it might be a trick, but what he can do is remote viewing and has some telekinesis powers, and they were exploited by the CIA. My story, link in the description and up there somewhere, is that Yuri moved to the UK in the 70s and lived a hop, skip and a jump away from the CIA headquarters in Caversham Park in Reading. So was there a connection between SRI, remote viewing and the UK? Probably. But what's happened next is very interesting. So I reached out to Yuri, hi Yuri, and said, as a retired BBC science person, I foolishly thought that might impress him, but it really backfired. Would you be interested in doing an interview about your time in the UK? And he said, not interested, which is fair enough. I don't mind. I didn't really understand why, because he'd spoken to Ross Coulthard, and I wanted to go over another aspect of his fascinating life. He's somebody I'm very interested in, but this not interested comment was a bit perplexing until I realised that I really blew it, Simon, and that was by playing the ex-retired BBC card. When Uri Geller was active in service, the BBC wasn't very friendly towards Israel. That has changed completely today, and now the BBC bends over backwards in protecting and promoting Israel against their conflict in Gaza. Times have changed, Yuri, but despite Uri Geller blowing me off from the interview, it's fair enough, I don't blame him, he has continued to discuss what I was talking about on this fascinating email group. Now, you'll remember sitting here was Jack Sarfati. Now, Jack included me very kindly in his old person email forum. There are a number of physicists and leading players in the UFO world or the secret world get together and share ideas. It's actually very controversial. Unfortunately, it's also very political. But cutting through the political stuff, there are some nuggets of very interesting information. One of them coming from Uri Geller. You've all seen what's happened in Gaza over the last few days. A number of people killed and a large number of injuries by these exploding pagers owned by Hezbollah, who are a political group opposed to Israel. I'm sure it was obvious to everybody that it was some type of attack by Israel. I mean, pagers don't just blow up, and if they overheat and go fizzle, they don't kill you, I hope. Let me fill you in what I know, and I know nothing about how the Hezbollah pager system works. So Hezbollah didn't trust mobile phones anymore, so they went to these text pagers for alerts for, attacks and other bits of vital information. But just recently, a new pager came out, and they were all either given it or told to upgrade by their political leaders, and all the bigwigs of Hezbollah were given these brand new pagers, which were obviously compromised. It wasn't just a battery overheating. Inside the pagers must have been a small but deadly explosive device. But the question is, who and how were they triggered? I don't think it was very smart of anybody to do that. I mean, I think it's horrendous. But Uri Geller has some very insightful information about the attack. And what I'm about to read out reveals a bit of what Uri Geller was involved in at the time he was in Britain. And that's what I wanted to ask him about. So Yuri, thanks for writing this public forum letter that I think is really fascinating and needs to be made a bit more public. So Yuri says, "My dear friends, I have to be very careful about what I say, but as many of you have heard in breaking reports, mobile phones and pagers belonging to members of Hezbollah have been exploding across Lebanon." Yeah, that's right. Many people will be asking questions about how is this possible? I have been asking that question. And no doubt you will soon hear from some experts providing possible theories and explanations. I'm not going to go there. Perhaps about some kind of innovative technological hack by Mossad. Mossad is the Israeli Secret Service. Or by the use of tiny explosives that were secretly smuggled into various devices. But the reality behind how this really happened may even be more surprising than you think. Oh, great. Please go on. Let me explain, says Uri Geller. Back in the 1970s, when I was being studied by the CIA, I was asked to try and influence a number of mechanical devices at a distance. Okay. Including computers that were actually used to control the security of nuclear weapons. Yeah, makes sense. I was also taken to a secure facility and put in a room where I was able to view a live pig through a window into the next room and asked to try and use my mind power to stop the pig's heart. Oh boy. Yuri says, rightly, I was absolutely horrified by that request and refused to do it. He is both vegan and an animal lover. Thanks, Yuri. That's great. But if you've read the book and seen the film The Men Who Stare at Goats, starring George Clooney, The Men Who Stare at Goats is a real program, by the way, then you will know that the US military went on to try and train a whole team of psychic soldiers, very true, to do exactly the same thing as I was being asked to do, to stop the pig's heart. This time, with goats. This is a bit close to me. Anyway, yeah, that's true. And their eventual goal was to able to target their, at the time, Soviet enemies and perform remote psychic assassinations. Interesting, Yuri. Please go on. That experimentation into the possibility of remote psychic warfare did not end in the 1970s or even the 1980s, despite what the US government claims when it says that Project Stargate and similar research programs were shut down. Yep, I get that. The research just went deep undercover. Yep, and Yuri claims it continues to this day. I'm not surprised. And over the years, that research has increasingly focused on ways to use certain technologies to amplify the psychic abilities of trained subjects and focus their energy in more direct and targeted ways. Where's he going with this? So, Uri Geller says, are the exploding phones and pagers in Lebanon simply and solely caused by a technological hack or by explosives packed in sabotage devices? Or might there be more to this than most people will ever know or dare to imagine? Yeah, there's more to it than I could dare to imagine. Thanks, Yuri. As I said at the start, I have to be very careful what I say, but I'll leave you with this little riddle. Interesting how people in the CIA like riddles, but I've come across that before. And he says this, listen to this very carefully. The technology that made these phones and pagers explode might have something to do with a strange malady that first emerged in the capital of Cuba. And the original version of that technology may have even been discovered precisely 76 years ago in New Mexico, the United States. Really? Okay. And in reply to that email, another person who I choose to remain anonymous says, yes, I, the writer of this anonymous letter, says, I was back with Yuri in 1974 with some of those Lawrence Livermore guys in London. I knew it. And he goes on to say, I raised the topic that Yuri could disable a nuke, and the guys from Lawrence Livermore freaked out. Really? I thought they would be interested to see if that could really happen. I guess the truth is still out there.